Good afternoon and welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. We start the show by taking you to Capitol Hill, where House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries now speaking with reporters after both chambers of Congress overwhelmingly voted to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Thus far, he's discussed all things surrounding the economy and health care. Let's take a live look in.
It's broken. That the Republican control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency has been a disaster for the American people, because everything House Republicans do is for show. They can't even get a commitment from Senate Republicans to take up legislation to remove this multi-million-dollar taxpayer-funded slush fund to benefit corrupt Republicans in the Senate. It's time for the House to start to actually do things that matter for the American people in the middle of a cost of living crisis that's devastating hardworking American taxpayers all across the country. But Republicans throughout this week have shown zero interest in making life better for everyday Americans. They continue to be all about the wealthy, the well-off, and their well-connected GOP donors.
Senator Jeffries.
Back.
Thank you. On the Affordable Care Act, Democrats are, obviously you say you want an extension of the tax credits. President says he won't sign that. Senate and House Republicans are talking about various other alternatives. Is there a potential for compromise here? And if so, where does that originate from? Because it seems like the parties are talking past each other right now.
We're in the middle of open enrollment right now, so tens of millions of people all throughout the country realize that their health insurance premiums are skyrocketing because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And during the Trump Republican shutdown, we repeatedly indicated that we want to work together in good faith with the other side of the aisle to address the Republican health care crisis. And Leader Schumer even offered a very reasonable proposal, which is a one-year extension of the...
All right, yet again, the House Minority Leader speaking to reporters surrounding all things with regard to the economy and health care. We're going to take you from there to the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum. That's also being held right here in the nation's capital. As you can see, the Saudi Crown Prince now approaching the podium. Let's take a live look in.
نلتقي بكم اليوم في واشنطن بعد 6 أشهر من انعقاد منتدى الاستثمار السعودي الأمريكي في الرياض الذي انعقد خلال زيارتكم فخامة الرئيس، حيث وضعنا الأسس لشراكة تقوم على النمو والتنويع الاقتصادي والابتكار، كما وقعنا وثيقة الشراكة الاقتصادية الاستراتيجية بين بلدينا في خطوة تاريخية لترسيخ التعاون الاقتصادي. واليوم يسرنا توقيع اتفاقيات ومشروعات استثمارية جديدة تتضمن قطاعات الدفاع والطاقة والذكاء الاصطناعي والمعادن النادرة والقطاع المالي، مما سيسهم في توطيد فرص وتوظيف فرص وظيفية كثيرة في بلدينا والنمو الاقتصادي في بلدينا. ونتطلع إلى أن يسهم هذا المنتدى لتعزيز العلاقة التاريخية وتطوير مسار الاستثمار بين بلدينا بما يواكب طموحاتنا، وادعوكم إلى اغتنام الفرص الجاذبة التي توفرها الشراكة السعودية الأمريكية. واشكر فخامتكم على اهتمامكم بتعزيز الشراكة الاقتصادية والتي نثق أنها ستشهد نمو غير مسبوق خلال السنوات القادمة. شكرا فخامتكم.
Well, thank you very much. And it's great to be here today at the U.S.-Saudi Investment Forum. Great group of people. The biggest, you got the biggest in the room. But some of the most talented, maybe most importantly, the word talent, successful and innovative business leaders anywhere on the planet. Whether you have come from near or far, we're delighted to have you invest right here in the hottest country anywhere in the world. Every leader is saying the United States we're the hottest country in the world. We're going to keep it that way too. But this has been, according to those that seem to say it, and I will say it, I would never say a thing like that because I want to be very modest. I always want to be modest as I can. They say this has been the best 9 months that any president has ever had. I'd say that's pretty good, right? But we've had a great 9 months. Now we have to do it more than a few more times. We just have to keep it going. We'll keep it going. I want to thank my friend, a great gentleman, Crown Prince Mohammed of Saudi Arabia, for his bold leadership and deep commitment to the ties between our two countries. Thank you. Thank you. Great gentleman. Yesterday we had a phenomenal visit at the White House celebrating the 80-year bond between the United States and Saudi Arabia. We ended with an unbelievable show last night in a room that was far too small, but the next time you're here, you'll have a much bigger room. It's gonna be much bigger. I made more enemies last night by not, we had 119 people. That was a record for the room. So they've wanted for 150 years, they've been clamoring for a ballroom at the White House, and we're giving them one plus, and it'll be something. But you'll be here, you'll be among the first, if not the first, if you'd like. You know, we'll work it out. But you had a lot of people that wanted to be there. They really would have witnessed something that was really incredible. The entertainment last night was incredible, including our great opera singer, but including the military. The talent and the military musically is also incredible. So it was great to be with you last night. I think it was something to behold. We officially designated the kingdom yesterday as the major non-NATO ally. That's a big deal. That's actually a very big deal. Great honor. That happens seldom, very seldom, if at all. So I just want to congratulate you on that. That's a sign of trust. We signed a historic strategic defense agreement yesterday also, and that's something that is likewise very rare, and it's a very honored company that you're in. And we're going to be selling Saudi Arabia some of the greatest military equipment ever built. We build the best military equipment in the world by far. That's why we do the most business, including nearly 300 American-made tanks is what you're buying, among many other things, the airplanes, and we're working on getting that approved very quickly. It's already approved, but don't worry. We have to go through a process. The process will take, Elon knows, the process will take about, would you say 24 hours? I think so. You're in good shape, very good shape. The partnership between our two nations is among the most consequential in the entire world, and together the Crown Prince and I are making an alliance stronger and more powerful than it's ever been before. We've had good relationships and frankly not good. You didn't have a good relationship with Barack Hussein Obama. You didn't have a good relationship with Sleepy Joe Biden. But you had a great relationship with me, and now it's as good as it was, and probably even better if you think about it, because we took the dark cloud away from your country. It was called Iran and its nuclear capability, and we obliterated that very quickly and strongly and powerfully. But that was a real cloud over the whole Middle East, and now they want to make a deal. They want to make a deal. They want to see if they can work out a deal with us, and we'll be doing that probably. But that was a terrible cloud that you had to live with for a long time. 22 years they were thinking about doing that, the B-2s. That was even before the B-2s. Those B-2s, what machines they were, they flew in, they were undetectable. And they dropped their payload, and every single bomb hit its exact mark, which was a shaft going deep into the mountain. And every single one of them hit, and it was total obliteration. And then I was criticized by some of the fake news for saying the word obliteration was too strong, perhaps. They had no idea. Nobody saw it. 3 days later, when the Atomic Energy Commission went, they said it was total obliteration, beyond obliteration, they said. But they want to make a deal. We'll see what happens. This week, our countries also signed groundbreaking agreements on civil nuclear energy, critical minerals, and artificial intelligence. And I want to congratulate a lot of the great American leaders, business leaders that are in the room. And you'll do a great job for Saudi Arabia and for a lot of other people in the room that are buying your product, taking your product, and using your product. All of that is in addition to the $600 billion investment in the United States that Saudi Arabia announced during my unforgettable visit there last spring. Well, I said, could you try and get that up to $1 trillion? And yesterday, the Crown Prince announced that the number that they'll be investing in the United States is $1 trillion. So that's really an honor. And we just took a picture backstage with some of the great business leaders and some of the great people, friends of mine from your country, and beautiful picture. And while we were taking the picture, I said, could you make it 1.5 trillion? So he's got something to think about. I don't know. We'll get something. I think we'll get something, Scott, right? But many of you in the room are playing a key role in making these projects happen, and we're told that $270 billion in agreements and sales are being signed between dozens of companies, and that's just happening today, $270 billion. That's big stuff. So on behalf of the thousands of American workers who I care about most, I want to thank you for bringing all those jobs and all those great opportunities to America and bringing great wealth to America. We've become a very wealthy country. We have a couple of little things. We're waiting for a decision. We hope that's going to be good, but if it's not, we always find ways, we find ways, but we've done things that nobody thought were possible, and we're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars. Tariffs have been, frankly, the best thing that's ever happened to our country. They've always been used against us, and we never had people that were smart enough to use them in the opposite direction. But now you do, and we have taken in trillions of dollars, and it's been absolutely amazing. We're going to be doing a dividend to the people, low and middle income, moderate income people, of at least $2,000. In addition to that, we'll be paying down debt very substantially. It's the kind of money we're taking in. And really, countries that took advantage of us are no longer taking advantage of us. Friends, some of our friends treated us far worse than our enemies on trade anyway, and we've got that all straightened out. And everybody's happy. They respect us again. It's like one of those things. I think they like us better, and they actually respect us, and it works out much better for us, too. But I especially want to thank our numerous Saudi friends here today, including the ambassador to the United States, a friend of mine, Princess Rima. Thank you very much. Great job. Great representative you have. You sent a good representative. And many distinguished ministers and members of the cabinet, governor of the Public Investment Fund. Where's Yasser? Yasser's here someplace. Sometimes I see him dressed both ways. I don't know. It's cooler that way. I'd dress that way if I could. Yasser's terrific. He's a terrific man, actually. So thank you very much, Yasser. And Secretary Scott Bessent, who's been fantastic. Where's Scott? We're thinking about him for the Fed, but he wants no part of it. He likes being Secretary of the Treasury. I think we'll leave him. So let's cross your name off, right? Officially, right? Remember, you said that. I love the Fed job. To me, it's the easiest job in the world. You play golf for 28, 29 days, then you go and make a little speech, tell everybody, in the case of the current guy, the wrong information because he has no clue. But if you have good instincts, it's all based on instincts. I see they want to hire 3,000 economists, 3,000, to report to the Fed chairman. What are they going to do? Take all this information? 3,000 economists. That's why they're spending $4 billion on renovating a building that should have cost $25 million to do. They should have spent $25 million. They're building a basement into the Potomac River. I could have told them that's very tough to do and it doesn't work and it's very expensive. But they're up to $4 billion headed by this clown. But we have 3,000, think of it. They want to hire 3,000 economists. So they took a poll and they interviewed 71 people. And of the 71 people, 2 people got it right. 2 people. One was a great economist whose name I won't tell you because I don't like him personally, but he is good. And the other one that got it the most right was a man named President Donald J. Trump. Do you believe it? Everyone else was wrong. And I didn't have an economist. Well, I had Scott. But we got it right, didn't we? Huh? We got everything right. Doug Burgum, where's Doug? Will you please drill a little bit faster? Between him and I'll tell you, you and Chris was great on television, and he's setting records. They're setting records, but I'll never be satisfied. Drill, you know, we got elected. Drill we must, I called it. Drill, baby, drill. Con Edison, a great utility from New York many years ago, they used to have it said, drill we must and dig we must. So when they were digging in a road, they'd have a sign, dig we must. Well, now we're putting those utilities to shame because I'm allowing all of those AI plants that are being built to build their own electric generating force, and they're building them like nobody's ever seen, and they're coming up with ideas and new contraptions like nobody's ever seen. And this way they can't blame me for not producing electric. I said, you produce it yourself. And actually they didn't believe I was saying that because nobody ever thought of a thing like that. They're building a massive plant. They were going to hook it up to a 200-year-old grid. And you know that wasn't going to work because there's no way of doing that. No way we could have done that. And I had the idea. This was my idea, approved by a couple of people. I said, why wouldn't that happen? They're building a plant for $50 billion. You know, if you build a shopping center for $50 million, it's okay. It's not a bad shopping center. $500 million, you're talking about top of the line. $50 billion. So when it was first explained, they're spending $50 billion. I said, no, you mean 50 million. No, sir, we mean 50 billion. And then I saw some of them that were the size of Manhattan. I said, they did mean 50 billion. And I said, well, what you're going to do is with that, how would you like to build your own electric generating plant? And they looked at me like I was crazy because something like that, they really didn't understand it. The smart guys, they didn't understand it. They said to me at the next meeting, sir, the biggest problem we have will be electricity. I said, you don't understand. I told you last week, you're going to build your own. I'm giving you approval to build your own plant, and you will be approved within a period of 2 to 3 weeks. It used to take 20 years prior to termination. In other words, you would wait 20 years and you wouldn't make it. You'd be voted down 5 to 4. I said, we're getting you approved in a 2-week, 3-week period. In fact, Lee Zeldin, one of the superstars of this administration, I said, Lee, if it's oil and gas, get them approved in 2 weeks. If it's nuclear, add another week. Because some are going nuclear, and they're doing, be careful. They better be careful, but they are going to be careful. They're the greatest people in the world. So now they come back and they actually believed it, and now they're being approved rapidly, and we have things being built, the likes of which nobody's ever seen. We're leading China by a lot in AI. And we're also bringing auto plants in from Canada and from Mexico. They took them, and they're all coming back. They're all coming back because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, I mean, they like the fact that we won the election by a landslide on November 5th. That helped. But they're all coming back, and they're coming back from Germany and Japan. Toyota just announced, as you know, $10 billion worth of new plants. They just announced it last week. I went to various countries, and Japan was one of them. And Toyota's coming in with a $10 billion investment in 4 or 5 plants. Now, we're going to be more advanced than we were. So we led the car industry like 100% 50 years ago. We led the chip industry 30, 40 years ago. We had 100%. Then people came in and started taking it. I don't blame them, Taiwan, et cetera. They took 100% because we had no president that protected our industry. If we would have said, it's wonderful that you're going to Taiwan, we think it's great, but when you sell your product back into this country, there will be a 250% tariff. Nobody would have left. Nobody would have left. And Intel would have been a giant. Intel would have been, where's Jensen? Intel would have blown, well, he now owns a big chunk of Intel. He's got it figured all different ways. Where are you, Jensen? Stand up. You have done such a good job. And you had a good 2 days, I understand, right? A good 2 days. How's Blackwell doing, okay? Any recent competitors? Anybody going to blow Blackwell away in the next week? They say 10 years, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 3 years. But you will not be stopping there. You'll be going further fast, right? An amazing job you've done. I want to thank Howard Lutnick and Christy Noem for being here. Christy, Howard, good job. Really good job. My daughter Tiffany's here with her great husband, Michael. Thank you very much, Tiffany. Thank you, honey. She was a great student. She went to Georgetown. She was a great, great student, and she finished really right at the top, and we were proud of you. And she was so proud, and her graduation got canceled because of COVID. But I say if her name were something else, they probably wouldn't have canceled it. They didn't like that she did so well in school. They weren't happy about it. I say they canceled your graduation because you were a great student, and they didn't want, but other than that, I have no problems. You see, I don't take anything personally. Anyway, great job. And of course, hundreds of the top minds in technology, finance, and private enterprise from both Saudi Arabia and the United States. But my message to all of the leaders and investors with us today, and they are the best in the world, is very simple. Under the Trump administration, America is back and America is open for business, and America is actually stronger than it's ever been before, ever. We rebuilt the military in my first term. Foolishly, we gave a little bit to Afghanistan, but not very much compared to what we built. But now we're building it at levels that we've never done before. And in addition to that, we're sending a lot out to our allies, and we're making it possible for them to get it. I want those companies to build more plants, to build it faster. We want them to build it faster. The biggest problem we have is we have a backlog because it's so good. Every country wants our missiles, our jets. They want everything we have, and we got to go faster. We just have a new plane, the F-47. It won a very strong competition. It's the newest, and that was won by Boeing. By the way, Boeing is doing an amazing job of coming back. Kelly is doing a great job. They're really moving, and it's really great to see. But they won the competition for the jet fighter, and they say it reaches levels that has never been reached, both in terms of stealth and speed and everything else that they go by. So they're just completing their factory, and they've already started work on the F-47. How did that number get chosen? I don't know, but I didn't pick it. I did not pick it. It was said, "Sir, we'd like to present you with the F-47. I said, "That's an unusual number. How did you pick that number?" After 4 years of economic nightmares under the previous regime, Sleepy Joe Biden, he was a sleepy guy, wasn't he? Think he would have been here today? I don't think so. Americans have rejected the failed, and they were really failed, far left models that you were looking at of high taxes and massive spending, soaring costs, crushing regulations, and trillions of dollars in green new scams. Everything was a new scam, green, green, green. Look, I'm all for the environmental, everything. I'm all for climate change. You know, they have a new word, climate change. It used to be global warming. It's global warming. Well, that didn't work because it started coming down. They did the global cooling thing. Then they just said, we can't keep up with this. It's too much. So we'll go, perfect words, climate change. They're covered. If it rains, if it snows, if it's warm, it's climate change is destroying the world, remember? The world was supposed to have been gone 2 years ago. They gave us 12 years, Howard, to live, right? 12 years. But that was 14 years ago. The world was going to burn up, but it got actually much cooler. They know these people. It's a little conspiracy out there. We have to investigate them immediately. They probably are being investigated. Their policies punished success, rewarded failure, and produced disaster, including the worst inflation in our country's history. We had the worst inflation in history, and now we have a beautiful normal inflation. It's going to come down over the next few months a little bit more, but we have a nice normal inflation. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country. 9 months ago, our country was dead. But now America is the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country. I don't care what country you're with. America is the hottest country considered. And we did this in a period of 9 months. We're a little longer than that, but it took me about 2 weeks to get started. We're rewarding those who build and create, invent, and invest in the USA. And you know, our big, I call it the great big beautiful bill. It's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of Congress. And Scott and I and all of us, we sat down and we said, let's do it, along with the Speaker and John Thune and everybody, said, let's do it all in one bill. And a lot of people were they said, you'll never get it approved. And we didn't have a huge majority. We had a huge presidential win. We won everything. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions. We won everything. But the one thing, we won one, it's called districts. The country has districts. And we won in terms of districts 2,750 to 550. And that's why when you see the map of the election, it's the whole country, it's all red. And it's pretty amazing. 2 little blue streaks on the right and on the left. And they're very little and getting smaller. But it's been pretty amazing. But in 4 long years, Joe Biden secured less than $1 trillion. In 9 short months, I've secured $18 trillion to rebuild our factories, create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and bring back those beautiful words, made in America. So think of that. He did less than $1 trillion in 4 years, and in 9 months, we've done more than $18 trillion, okay? That's called success. And we think that by the end of the first year, it'll be over $20 trillion. So, and thank you very much. You helped with that little boost you gave us, that little increase. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate you. So it's just one example. Under the deals being signed this week, workers at GE Aerospace, I think he's here. Where is he? Stand up. What a job you've done with your new engines. And where are you? You're there. It's not a very good location for you. I thought you have been amazing. Great new engine that's supposed to be more efficient, more powerful, and less costly. That's not a bad combination. But GE Aerospace will soon be delivering dozens of new airplane engines for 787 Dreamliners in Saudi Arabia's commercial fleet. Big order. It was a big order just secured. Every new job and every new factory created by these announcements builds up our middle class and really strengthens the industrial backbone of America. And, you know, I view it differently. I used to view it as it's great, great, great. The stock goes up. I view it, everything as jobs now because I don't care. I care about jobs. And we have more jobs. It was just announced we have more jobs right now than we've ever had in the history of our country. Those are big numbers. You know, it's like crazy. It's just a great stat. More jobs today than we've ever had in the history of our country. And we're going to be producing a lot more are coming. In my first term, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world, and now we're do it again. But this is really bigger and better and stronger. The first term, we had what was considered the best economy that any president has ever had. That's nice. And we got hit with COVID, remember? And we did a great job with COVID, but that was a horrible thing for the whole world. The whole world suffered. Your country suffered. Everybody suffered. And despite that, we had the greatest economy. And before that, forget it. We blew it off the charts. I'll never forget, I met with pollsters the day before I got the news about COVID, but I met with 2 pollsters because we were starting to think about the next election. They said, sir, if George Washington and Abraham Lincoln came back from the dead and they aligned and they went for the president, vice president as a combination, you'd be beating them by 25 points. And then the next day I was told that something strange is happening. There's a lot of death being reported in a certain country. I won't tell you which one because that country is well represented here. But you know which one. And thousands and thousands of people are dying. And I said, that's strange. What would that be? And it turned out to be a disaster for the world. There's, nothing has been seen like that since 1917. I always thought that when I heard, pandemic or anything you want to call it, but I always thought that was like an ancient phenomena, that could never happen in modern times, but it did. But we did a great job with all of the things that we did with the vaccines, with the so many of the drugs that we came up with, making you better. Regeneron, as an example. Regeneron was fantastic. I give them great credit for what they did. But we did great, and then we started doing the gowns and the masks and the goggles and the ventilators. We were sending ventilators all over the world. We became the king of ventilators. But what a period of time that was for all of us. But despite that, we had the greatest economy in the history of our we had the greatest economy in the history of the world. And I'll tell you, it was an amazing time. But this looks like it's going to be blowing it away, because when these plants, which are being built now, and many are going to be started very shortly, many, but when they open, we're going to see numbers the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And, you know, in some cases, you're building extremely complex plants. You're building plants to make computers and to make telephones, to make a lot of different things, missiles. But you're building plants that make things that are very, very detailed, and you have to have great knowledge. And you're coming here and you find, if we don't have people that did that before, we are allowing you, and I may take a little heat. I always take a little heat from my people, the people that love me and the people that I love. They happen to be toward the right of center, toward the right. Sometimes they're way right. But if you have to bring people to get those plants opened, we want you to do that, and we want those people to teach our people how to make computer chips and how to make other things. You can't come in, and I'm explaining, you can't come in, open up a massive computer chip factory for billions and billions of dollars like is being done in Arizona, and think you're going to hire people off an unemployment line to run it. They're going to have to bring thousands of people with them, and I'm going to welcome those people. Now, I love my conservative friends. I love MAGA, but this is MAGA. And those people are going to teach our people how to make computer chips, and in a short period of time, our people are going to be doing great, and those people can go home where they probably always want to be. You know, when people are born someplace, they tend to want to go, and we have the greatest country in the world, but they want to go. But they're going to do. We had one case in Georgia where a battery factory, batteries are very dangerous to make. They're complex, much more complex than people understand. And they spent $1 billion to build a factory, and they were told to get out. And I said, stop it. Don't be stupid. And we worked it out. And now they're teaching our people how to do it. But they're going to have to spend, Jensen, I don't think you can open up a big plant with your friend from Taiwan where we're going to have 40 or 50% of the computer chip business I don't think you can do that with people that don't even know what a chip looks like. Do you agree with that? So somehow, you know, the people that are against us are really, really smart. They're unbelievable patriots, but they just don't understand. Our people have to be taught. This is something they've never done. And we're not going to be successful if we don't allow people that invest billions of dollars in plant and equipment to bring a lot of their people from their country to get that plant open, operating, and working. I'm sorry. So my poll numbers just went down, but with smart people, they've gone way up. They've gone way up. And I mean that. So for those of you that are doing the plants, you're going to have all the help you need, and you're going to do a great job. And you're going to teach our people how to do it, and our people are going to be just as good as your people ever were in not such a long period of time. Since the election, the stock market has set, and this is a little more than 9 months, 46 all-time record highs. And the growth is now amazing, and it's lifting up the Americans and American economy like nobody's ever seen before. It's the biggest. There's never been a period of time like this. Wages for hourly workers are rising at the fastest pace in 60 years, and real wages for construction workers are up $2,200 a year, and that's good, and that's spending. They're going to spend. They're going to buy many of the things that you're making. In 9 months, we've lifted over 600,000 Americans off food stamps, and that's happening rapidly. You know, when we had the problem 2 weeks ago on the SNAP, and they talked about all of this, the numbers. So when I left, which was a rigged election, by the way, but that's okay. You know, they used to go crazy. I'd say rigged, nobody complains anymore because now they realize it was, and it's been proven, and it continues to be proven. But when I left, that number was $7 billion. Now it's $47 billion. That's Biden. So if you think about it, if Kamala, who's the same basic thing, grossly incompetent, he was incompetent, they're all incompetent because their policies are incompetent. Open borders, men playing in women's sports, transgender for everybody. I mean, they got the worst policy. I don't talk about it too much because if I talk about it, they might change. So, no, I don't talk about it. I tell people, don't talk about it. Wait till 2 weeks before the election and hit the hell out of them. Right? We talked about that, right, Elon? He said, we wait 2 weeks before. It's almost like you're at a war. Don't shoot yet. Don't shoot. Hold your fire. The enemy's rushing. Hold your fire. Don't shoot. Okay, now you can go. 2 weeks before. But I watched a guy the other day, a congressman, fighting for men playing in women's sports. And the new weightlifting record for a certain weight was just set. The man was 119 pounds higher than a woman champion who was a phenomenal champion. Beat her by 119, and he was an average lifter prior to transitioning. A lot of the Saudis are sitting here saying, what the hell is he talking about transition? They don't do a lot of transitioning. They're sitting here, the Saudis are saying, what is he talking about? They're saying, what do you mean women are playing against men? No, that doesn't happen, does it? Yeah, it does. These people are crazy. 1.9 million more American-born workers are employed today. Think of that, than when I took office. So we picked up almost 2 million workers, and more Americans are now working, as I said, than at any time in the history of our country. Under Biden, 1 out of every 4 new jobs went to increase the size of the federal government. So in other words, 1 out of 4 was a federal worker. Well, I love our federal workers, but that's not the way you can build a country. It's a short road to a disaster. Under my administration, 100%, think of that, of all new jobs created came out of the private sector. In fact, the federal government, we cut thousands and hundreds of thousands of jobs out of the federal government. Now, if I wanted to do something for purely political reasons, I'd say, Susie, let's hire a couple of million federal workers. And you know what happened? Unemployment is unbelievable. We don't do that. They did that. They used to hire workers in order to fudge up the numbers. The federal workers. By the way, Susie Wiles, most powerful woman anywhere in the world by the biggest, most important magazine. Susie Wiles, she had her father, Pat Summerall, the great announcer, football. He was a great football player, became an even greater, the voice of the NFL, and he was supposed to be a tough cookie, and I believe it 100%. Most powerful woman in the world. She can take out a country, take out a country with 1 phone call. That's power. I don't know if I could do that, but she could. Thank you, Susie. Do you feel good about the job you're doing? Huh? She's never going to be satisfied. She's doing a great job. We're also making incredible strides to make America affordable again. That's a new word that they're using. Affordability, they talk. They had the worst inflation in history. They had the highest prices in history. The country was going to hell. The only thing that we're going up in is our stock market, okay? The only price that we really have, I mean, we're bringing prices down, but they came up with a new word, affordability. And they look at we were all about affordability, and everyone assumes that that meant that, no, their prices were high. If you look at the numbers, since I took office, core inflation is now below 2.7%. It was at numbers that nobody had ever seen before with them. Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal is reduced by 25% this year from last year. So they make, look, the Democrats, I don't know, some of you are probably liberal Democrats. I don't know about in your country. I don't know if you know that word, liberal. The word liberal doesn't exist. But they have a new word now. You can't use liberal, you have to use the word progressive. And I don't like using it. It's a beautiful word, progressive. Progressive, that's not them. They're regressive. No, they're regressive. Think of it. So if I don't get in, we have $20 trillion. Let's say she gets in. Instead of $20 trillion, you'd lose $10 trillion, and your welfare and other benefits would go up by 30%. Look at SNAP. Look at what happened there. From 7 million to 47. From 7 billion to 47 billion. It would be that. So we would lose business. Countries and companies and people would flee our country. They would flee, and all of the other things would go up. In other words, would end up with a shell of a country, and I'm being nice when I use the word shell. This country would have been in big trouble, and I don't want to get him in trouble, but that gentleman right there, the most respected man in the room, that's today because we're here. Most respected man, I have to say that. Don't worry, when I'm with other countries and the leaders sitting there, I say the same about them. Don't worry. Don't get carried away. No, the most respected, one of the great leaders, he told me when I was in his country, he said, and I use it all the time. Sometimes I refer to him because I have great respect for him. I figure it sells better. But he said exactly these words. He said, it's amazing what you've done. 1 year ago, your country was dead. And now you've got the hottest country in the world. You were the first one that said that. And I've used your name hundreds of times. I use your name, I say, that king of Saudi Arabia said. But anyway, but it's true. We were a country that was in really bad trouble. We were a country that would have been dead, I believe, within a year or 2 years after the election. We were headed in a very bad direction. And now we're headed in the best direction I think that we've ever been headed. According to the USDA, Turkey is down, think of that, 33%. And I'm not talking about the country of Turkey. He's doing fine. Erdogan is doing good. Just want to, I don't want him calling me. I'm not down 33%. He's a friend of ours. We got to take care of our friends. Since March, egg prices are down 86%. Think of 86%. Many other prices are down in a similar number. When I first came into office, my first 3 days, I had a news conference, and they started screaming at me. Those people, that's a lot of people back there. Look at all the fake news. They started screaming at me, eggs, eggs. I didn't know anything about it. I said, what's going on with eggs? They're up quadruple. I said, I've only been here for 3 days. And we'll work on it. And we got them down very substantially. They said, don't buy eggs for Easter. At the White House, we have an Easter egg hunt. We buy thousands of eggs. People come from all over, thousands. They asked me, sir, would it be possible this year to buy plastic eggs? I said, I'm not buying plastic eggs. The kids are going to pick up an egg. They're going to, what the hell kind of an egg is this? And we bought maximum number of regular eggs, and we got the prices. Brooke Rollins did a great job, Department of Agriculture. She did a fantastic job. And eggs are way down now. Mortgage rates are down despite the Fed. Scott, you got to work in this guy. He's got some real mental problems. No, he's something wrong with him. It's just sweet. I'll be honest, I'd love to fire his ass. He should be fired. Guy's grossly incompetent. And he should be sued for spending $4 billion to build a little building. I'm building a ballroom that's going to cost a tiny fraction of that, and it's bigger than the whole thing put together. You got to work on him, Scott. The only thing Scott's blowing it on is the Fed. Because the Fed, the rates are too high, Scott. And if you don't get it fixed fast, I'm going to fire your ass, okay? I can't tell you, Scott, sir, don't fire him. Sir, please don't fire him. He's got 3 months to go. Don't fire him. I want to get him out, Scott. Please. He's the voice of reason. You're very lucky you have him, I'll tell you that. Done a good job. I think Howard's a little bit more for firing him. Right, Howard? I think Howard would say, get him the hell out of there. Anyway, well, congressional Democrats wanted the largest tax hike in history. They wanted to raise your taxes by 42%, 44%. I proudly gave you the largest tax cuts in American history. Don't forget, the great big beautiful bill doesn't kick in until January 1st. So all these numbers that you're reading about, all these great numbers, that's without the tax cuts. The tax cuts take effect on January 1st, and that's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. Even people that go buy a car, they've never had this. You know, middle-income people don't know what the word deduction is. They don't know. This room, they live on deductions. Me too. How much of a deduction do I get? We all live on it. Middle-income people, they don't know about that. They don't really have deductions. We're giving them a deduction on the interest if they buy a nice Tesla car and they borrow the money. You're so lucky I'm with you, Elon. I'll tell you, has he ever thanked me properly? Although I do let him buy other than electric cars, but these are minor details. You know, we had a mandate, which even Elon thought was ridiculous, that everybody has to have an electric car by 2030. And once, fortunately, he said, that's a ridiculous thing. So I keep quoting, but I'm giving them a deduction. Now, Elon would like to have it differently. A deduction only if you buy a Tesla, right? But we'll let it be for everybody. But think of it. You get a deduction on the loan, on your interest payment. I think that's going to be an unbelievable boon to car sales. I think it's one of the biggest things, and we'll see, but I think it's going to be. And the biggest thing I've done for business and jobs is deductibility, where all of that money that you're spending, 100%, think of it, expensing for all new equipment purchase, factory construction, including structure. Every single thing you're allowed to deduct, expensing 1 year. And that's what made our first tax bill, in my opinion, more than anything else, bringing your money back in. We have that, we have everything. Trillions of dollars, hundreds of billions, but trillions of dollars. Apple alone, Tim Cook brought in hundreds of billions of dollars. You couldn't do it under the old tax code. You'd have to pay so much tax. And just the bureaucracy of it, we made it very simple. We charged a fair rate, and we took in billions. Well, we have that. But the expensing, to me, was the thing that made it so successful. And the other thing is all of those tax cuts that we got, that was the largest tax cut in history. On top of adding to those cuts, we extended the original tax cuts. If we didn't extend, you would have had about a 58% tax increase from that point. And we were able to get that extended. So I want to thank the Speaker of the House, and I want to thank John Thune. And a lot of people thought that bill, because we put everything into that one, we took 4 years' worth of things, and we put them into the great, big, beautiful bill. And we got it passed. It was close, like about a quarter of a vote. It was on fumes. We thought for a couple of moments we were not going to be able to get it. Then we would have had to have it in 9 or 12 or 14 different bills. And I don't think we would have gotten many of them approved. We would have gotten some easily approved, but some we would have gotten no votes on. By putting it all together, we got everything. And it was a great job, and I think someday it's going to be appreciated. But among other things, it's the biggest tax cut in history for people and for businesses. So just enjoy it. And think of me every once in a while when you're hiring new people and making a lot of money. You just think about us. But I'm cutting a record number of job-killing regulations. That's the other thing. And I've already slashed more than $1 trillion worth of regulations this year. My last term, I gave the largest regulation cut in history, and now we're doing it again. In fact, for every new regulation, they're mandated to cut 10. And so far, it's for every new regulation, they've cut 30. So they have the idea. And very importantly, we stopped Joe Biden's radical crusade to kill oil and natural gas. Somehow, I don't think Saudi Arabia would like me too much if we could decide to kill oil and natural gas. There's nothing like it. It works. Windmills don't work. Other things, I don't want to get into it too much, but they don't work. What does work is natural gas, oil, nuclear, and other things. But the windmills are a disaster. I am the biggest negative person on windmills. They ruin your locations. They ruin. When I look at some of these countrysides that are littered with windmills, and every time it goes around, you lose money. The country loses money. It's a disaster. And I just hope that some of these countries that are losing their ass, we have countries that are going bankrupt because they're putting windmills all over the place. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money with energy. And we talk about oil, and we talk even clean, beautiful coal. I said, you're not allowed to mention the word coal unless you precede it by saying clean, beautiful. So I have my people in the office, they're talking about coal, right? And they're going, sir, a clean, beautiful coal is doing very well, sir. And then 2 minutes later, clean, beautiful coal. Then he mentions the third time, sir, coal. No, it's clean and beautiful. Because it needs a public relations help. Coal needs a little help, public relations-wise. So we refer to it as clean, beautiful coal, and it does have its place, that I can tell you. But we're streamlining permitting for all new energy projects, all new mining projects, and what used to take 28 days is now down to very little. But we had times when, not 28 days, we had times when things would take 14, 15, 16, and even 20 years to get approved. We have a maximum day, 28 days. That's the maximum it'll take. It'll never take more. You can come in with $1 trillion factory. You can come in with what it takes, a maximum of. You don't have to go years and years and years, be abused by bureaucracy. If you build a plant now, you're going to have your plant done within 28 days. And a lot of you are all, because I see everyone shaking their head, you're all agreeing. We're getting you approved by very smart people quickly. You know, when you used to walk in with plans done by the best engineers in the world, thousands of pages, and drop them on some guy who's been there for 28 years approving environmental impact statements, and he's looking at pages that he's never seen, and he's supposed to approve it. He has no idea what the hell is in those pages. So we know what we're doing. We're going to get maximum is 28 days. That's why we have so much under construction, and people can't believe it. They can't believe it. And again, remember what I said, most important thing, you're building your own electric plant. You're really becoming a utility in addition to doing what you're doing. But you're building all of the excess, all of that energy, all of that electricity is being built. And your excess electricity, you can sell back to the federal grid. So we even make it there. Under the deals being signed this week, the world's two leading energy superpowers, America and Saudi Arabia, are partnering on energy like we've never partnered before. American Saudi companies represented here today are joining on liquefied natural gas, infrastructure, constructions, and making both of our energy sections. I mean, our sectors are becoming so strong. Just a quick story. In Louisiana, when I first time I got there were two massive LNG plants. One was under review for 14 years and was being rejected. The other one was for 18 years. The people in Louisiana, Doug, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And one was $20 billion, one was $24 billion, like the biggest things, like 3 Empire State Buildings lying on its side. It was massive. And I said, whatever happened with those plants? Well, sir, they're under review. How long has it been? 14 years and 17 years. And they had given up. Massive investments were being made by other countries and the richest people. They couldn't get them approved. I got myself involved. Right, Doug? The first one, I got approved in 1 day. The second one, I got a little cocky. I took my time. It took me 1 week. And they're both operating today, and they're tremendously successful. I got one, think of it. After 14 years, I was in office. I got involved. I got it done in 1 day. And it's been a tremendous success and made a lot of money for our country and for a lot of other people. And the other one took 1 week to get done. That one was under review, I think, for 14 or 15 years, both of them. So I'm very proud of that, actually. I also proudly ended the ridiculous Biden-era restrictions on artificial intelligence, and we will work closely with friends and partners like those in this room to build the largest, most powerful, most innovative AI ecosystem in the world, and we are going to work it so that you'll have a one approval process, not have to go through 50 states in the United States. You know, you can't go through 50 states. You have to get one approval. 50 states is a disaster because you have one woke state and you have to do all woke. You'll be back into the woke business. We don't have woke anymore in this country. It's virtually illegal. But you'll have a couple of wokesters, and we don't want to do that. We want to get the AI done, and I'm working with David. David's done a fantastic job. If he's here, I think he is. He is. Thank you. David's done a fantastic job. But we want one approval, one, and hopefully you have the right guy in the federal government. Hopefully you have the right president, but you have one approval, one approving body, not 50, not, hundreds of people all over the country looking at what you're doing. And basically you're forced to take the worst and the most onerous, right, Jensen? Are you happy with that, Jensen? Thank you. If Jensen's happy, I'm happy. But it's very important. We have to do that. And we have a couple of very good, very well-meaning senators that think every state should have a right to approve. We're not going to do that because that will not allow you to do what we have to do. And we'll get that straightened out. Together, the United States and Saudi Arabia are unleashing really the most incredible new prosperity together. And we're also making history and forging peace. And I've settled 8 raging conflicts, 8 wars. I've settled 8 wars. I have one to go. You know what that one is. I thought that was going to be my easy one because I have a good relationship with President Putin, but I'm a little disappointed in President Putin right now. He knows that. I thought that was going to be the easy one. I settled one war, 36 years. I got it done in one day. I had another one, 32 years, millions of people killed. Even Congo and the Rwanda, they had 10 million people killed. It was out of control. I got that settled. I have a man's father who happens to be in this room doing a great job, right? Got that settled. I settled 8 wars, and I'll tell you, His Majesty would like me to do something very powerful having to do with Sudan. It was not on my my charts to be involved in that. I thought it was just something that was crazy and out of control. But I just see how important that is to you and to a lot of your friends in the room. Sudan, and we're going to start working in Sudan. I didn't think that that was one that was going to be so easy to do, but we're going to start working. Mohammed said, yeah, thank you. Thank you to you. No, it wasn't on my charts because I'm good at settling disputes, and I've always been. I've done very well with that over the years, even before this. But I was talking about the different wars, and look, India, Pakistan, they were going to go at it, nuclear weapons. I said, that's okay, you can go at it, but I'm putting a 350% tariff on each country. No more trade with the United States. No, you can't do that. I said, I'm going to do it. Come back to me and I'll take it down. But I'm not going to have you guys shooting nuclear weapons at each other, killing millions of people, and having the nuclear dust floating over Los Angeles. I'm not going to do it. They said, we don't like that. I said, I don't care if you like it or not. So I was all set. I told Scott, 350% tariff to settle that war. If you don't, we'll make a nice trade deal. They were in the midst of a deal. Now, no other president would have done that. Another guy would have, like Joe Biden, doesn't even know what countries we're talking about. He wouldn't have any idea. There'd be no tariffs, no nothing. Just the whole world would go to hell. But no, I used tariffs to settle all these wars. Not all of them. 5 of the 8 were settled because of the economy, because of trade, because of tariffs. So I did this. But, and then, I'll tell you what, the Prime Minister of Pakistan called me. Thank you very much. He actually said, I saved millions, and he said it in front of Susie. He said, President Trump saved millions and millions of lives. He doesn't even know that, but he saved millions of lives, and he talks about it. And I got a call from Prime Minister Modi saying, we're done. I said, you're done with what? We're not going to go to war. I said, thank you very much. Let's make a deal. But I saved a lot of people, millions of people, on many other wars. Azerbaijan, you know what was happening there? I settled that. That was going on for many, many years. Actually, Putin called me. He said, I can't believe you got that one settled. We've been trying to settle that one for a long time. I said, don't worry about that. Just let me settle your frickin' war, okay? You don't have to help me. I don't need any help. I need help with your war. And it'll get done. But working with the Crown Prince was amazing because he mentioned Sudan yesterday. And he said, sir, you're talking about a lot of wars, but there's a place on earth called Sudan, and it's horrible what's happening. And I viewed it as being just sort of a freelance, no government, no this, no that. And he explained the whole culture and the whole history, and it was very interesting to hear. Really amazing, actually, to hear. And you know, we've already started working on that, okay? He said that would be the greatest thing you can do. That would be greater than what you've already done. That was your expression. Is that a correct expression? Pretty good. So we're working on that. We started about 30 minutes after you explained to us the great importance of that. I view it differently now than I did just a day ago. But we also, as you know, we had a historic ceasefire. We ended the war in Gaza. And 2 days ago, incredibly, the United Nations Security Council backed the Trump peace plan. And we have a great peace plan. We have peace in the Middle East. This is a strong peace, too. They say, oh, it's tentative. It's not. This is a very strong peace. We have 59 countries signed on. And when there's problems, I'm getting calls from countries. They want to go in and lead the fight to solve the problem if we have any problems. But right now, it's looking very good and endorsed. They endorsed the United Nations, what's called the Board of Peace, chaired by a person called Donald J. Trump. I accepted the chairmanship. They asked me to be chairman. That's what I needed. It's just a little more work, but it's a great honor. That'll be the greatest board ever assembled. When do you see this board? This board will blow every board away, and I believe we're going to be lucky enough to have the Crown Prince be a very distinguished member of the board. But we're going to have the heads of the Board of Peace, and I think it will go long beyond Gaza and the Middle East. I can see that going long beyond. There'll never be anything like this in terms of, I know you all have wonderful boards, but this is going to blow it away. It's going to blow them all away, and it's going to do some really good. So in the coming months, the Crown Prince and I are going to ensure that the ceasefire and everything else that's going on that's so positive in the Middle East, hard to believe. I mean, I've grown up, peace in the Middle East. I used to have peace in the Middle East, but never happened. We have peace in the Middle East. It's an amazing thing. Nobody thought, 3,000 years they talked. Nobody thought it would happen. In just 9 months, our administration has achieved more than most other administrations achieve in 8 years. And we're leading again in just every country. We want to win. We want to win for you. We want to win for ourselves. We want to help our allies. We want to change our enemies. We want to change our enemies. I'm being nice when I say it that way, but we want to change them. And if they don't change, we're going to be nasty. But hopefully we're not going to have to be nasty. But we want the world to prosper. We want the world to be safe. Our alliances are flourishing like they haven't before. And, you know, they're respecting America again. They didn't respect us. We were like a bunch of stupid people. We had a president that couldn't get up and talk, couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. We had people that didn't know what the hell they were doing. We were an embarrassment all over the world. But now we have people that are respected at levels that we've never seen before. So I just want to tell you that this is a group that I respect. I read every single name of every single person sitting in each and every seat. And I either know you or I know of you. This is an amazing group of people. And it really is headed by that gentleman sitting right smack center with 2 seats in between him. He wants plenty of room. And he's going to be the king of Saudi Arabia right now. He's the most distinguished gentleman. He's my friend. And thank you very much for what you've done for us, and we will always be with you. Thank you, Mohammed. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
making mention that the Crown Prince wants the U.S. to intervene in the civil war in Sudan that's been raging for some 2 years now. President Trump says the U.S. will now likely get involved. Joining us now to discuss all things surrounding politics and so much more is Miss Marley Hornig. She's the CEO of Real America Vote and joins us right now on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Marley, thank you so much for being patient. I know you've been waiting for quite some time. Welcome to the show.
Well, we all wanted to hear what the president had to say. It's an honor to be following him up, and it's nice to see you again, Guy.
So, Margaret, out of curiosity, what did you think about what the president had to say, specifically surrounding the relationship with the U.S. and Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think it's very exciting. I think he's doing such a good job there and all over the world in bringing real investments back to the United States of America. We have to bring back our manufacturing. We have to bring back our intellectual property and the control over all of the great American ingenuity and innovation that comes out of a system that is unique, based on liberty, not despotism. And so I just think he's so inspiring, and I'm so grateful that he's working so hard for our country everywhere.
All right, let's move on to the other big topic, or the story of the day, the story of the hour, quite honestly, the story of the minute. In this case, the Senate officially sending the bill forcing the DOJ to release all of its cases surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein case. President Trump now expected to sign that. We are awaiting his signature. The president now making his way back to the White House, where he is expected to do just that. However, the bill can then be held up by the Justice Department, who happens to be conducting an investigation on several Democrats who are also accused of perhaps taking part in crimes with Jeffrey Epstein. Your thoughts on all of this?
Well, I think the timing is a little bit suspicious. I don't have any problem with the Epstein files being released. I don't have any problem with people who are proven to have participated in some of these crimes, horrific crimes against young people, to be exposed for their involvement. But the issue is, why are the Democrats doing this right now? They had a failed shutdown. The president is now bringing another $1 trillion of investment onshore, and all of a sudden they want to talk about Epstein again. So the concern I think that I have, and I know a lot of people are sharing this and talking about this, is that the Democrats are going to forge ahead with potentially false evidence or allegations that haven't yet been proven. And we could end up in another, I don't know, like a Salem, Massachusetts, because the amount of partisan furor that's raging, people would be, they're almost salivating at the opportunity to try to finger someone. Are they really going to follow the American system and give individuals that are accused or their names are being raised, are they going to afford them due process? Or are they going to be prosecuted in the court of public opinion? I think that's the real concern. And my heart goes out for anyone who might have that experience. That's not the American way.
Fully understand, but the flip side of the coin, so many would argue, happens to be the survivors, the victims of the potential heinous crimes that took place. And to your point, there will be many that perhaps will be implicated, but yet again, hopefully they will have their process played out in the court of law. Should we not think about the victims as well?
We should absolutely be concerned about the victims, and we should also be discerning because we know how hard people will sometimes work in a fraught political environment to defame and discredit their opponents, let's say. So we just have to be discerning through the whole process. I can't imagine what it would be like to be a victim of this sick man's crimes. And I think every one of those individuals deserves justice, deserves protection, and they also deserve to be private if they want that. So I'm just concerned that the furor is going to end up creating problems with people whose rights are being trampled on either side of this equation. And again, the Democrats and everyone is kind of assuming or presuming that this is going to end up destroying Donald Trump. Here he is, he's doing such an amazing job for our country, and I think it's clear, I agree, that if he had really done something terrible in these circumstances, they would have already rolled that out. So I don't know. The whole thing seems suspicious, and I just hope that the young women who were violated get justice. I really do.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that, no matter what side of the fence you happen to sit on. We'll end with this, Marley, and that is President Trump now facing some criticism for calling a female reporter a piggy when she asked him about the Epstein files. Let's take a look.
Sir, if there's nothing incriminating in the files, sir, why are you acting as a Venezuelans?
Now, Bloomberg correspondent Catherine Lucy was among the gaggle of reporters on Air Force One on Friday and was talking to the president about him being mentioned in the files. Your response to what the president had to say?
I don't think that's defensible. I mean, I don't know how that helps our country. I don't know how it helps relations with the media. I don't know how it, supports meaningful journalism or factual reporting. It's just, it was obnoxious.
Yeah, well, I think we would all have to agree with that. Yet again, we learned at a very early age name calling is not the way to go. So perhaps the president will take a different approach next time when presented with that situation.
It doesn't create a national problem. It doesn't solve a national problem. It's just, basically gossip and hearsay. I mean, and not hearsay. Obviously, he said it, but it's not helpful to anyone.
Yeah. All right, we'll have to leave it there. Yet again, we have been speaking with Marley Hornick, CEO of Real America Vote, kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate you being patient.
Thanks, Guy.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of that break, we're celebrating all things with regard to military families. Why? Because November is National Military Family Month. We'll be right back. All right, folks, back here at the Fox 5 Live Zone. So when you think of the month of November, what comes to mind? Perhaps the kickoff to the holiday season? Yes, we're talking turkey with all the trimmings. Okay, yes, Thanksgiving is something that does come to mind, but there's so much more. In this case, I happen to be making reference to National Military Families Month. It's a time where we not only recognize those that have served our country, but their families. And that happens to be the case with my next guest. I'm pleased to say we're joined by Jessica Manfrey. She happens to be a mom of two and military spouse who's moved all over the world to support her husband. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being patient.
Oh, I'm happy to. And you know what? Thank you for saying world. My husband never got me any further than Alaska, unfortunately. He should have joined the Army.
You know what? You were reading my mind because, Jessica, that happens to be my first question. I'm curious, how many cities, towns, and or bases have you now lived on or at?
Yes, so my husband is active duty Coast Guard. He will actually retire from service in June of 2026, and he's been in 25 years. In 20 years, I have moved with him 9 times.
Wow.
So we've definitely, we've toured the country.
Yeah, and you do it all so well. And what do I mean by that? I think of my grandfather, and he served as well. And I remember we would visit him, and it seemed every 2 years we were in a location visiting granddad. But you are a part of that, meaning, to your point, every time your husband moved, guess what? You're the support system. You were there, right there for him, and collectively, you all did that together, and for your children. I'm hoping you could help us understand what that's like to be in that position.
I mean, it is a challenge, right? You're missing out with your loved one, the time with your loved ones, back home. You're starting over, and that's everything. New doctors, new schools for your children if you have them, finding a new job because, I entered into becoming a military spouse back when there were really no resources. There was no remote work. And so if you looked at my resume, it was kind of questionable, right? I'm really lucky now that I work for an incredible company that does employ veterans and military spouses, and that job has followed me to two different duty stations. But it's certainly challenging. And I will say that once you have children, I mean, regardless, becoming a parent lends a different lens to everything, but what they go through. My son has, moved 6 times and gone to 4 different schools at this point where we are now, where we're retiring. It's the first time that he gets to keep going with his friends. They'll have one high school, and it's such a blessing that I don't think people really understand that they have when they get to solidify in one home location.
Yeah, well, yet again, we truly appreciate what your husband does, but to you as well. I mean, it takes so much, and I think so many times you and/or the spouses are overlooked and not thought about. And so we wanted to make sure we did that right here on the Live Zone. I should also make mention that Military Family Appreciation Month was established back in 1993. Now, I'm not one to chastise, but perhaps it should have happened a lot longer. But we'll take it.
We'll take it. We love that. We love celebrating our military families. We're grateful to all the companies and organizations that step up to not only support families, but you mentioned military spouses and the issues we face and often being overlooked. I've seen that tide change, especially over the last 5 to 10 years. And I would say, on the positive side of things, I wouldn't be who I am today without being a military spouse. I get to, for my day job, I represent Mil Spouse Fest. I get to go all over the country, 8 different bases every year, and build events for spouses and bring those resources to them. And man, when I look back at being a 22-year-old brand new baby spouse, if I had those options. So I guess I would say we're getting it right now, right?
Well, speaking of getting it right, how about we end with this? How can I, the civilian, how can I get it right? And those watching at home, what can we do in order not only to support your husband, but to support you?
Oh my gosh, that's such a kind question. I think for me, we, as spouses, we do what we commonly call speed dating. We meet up for coffee. We've already got that commonality in the service. And we're, by the end of that date, they have my social security number and they're my emergency contact. I don't need that from my civilian friends, but I would encourage them to ask questions. What is it like? Tell me about being a military family. What have you liked? What have been your challenges? Because you know what? We all have unique stories. But when you take that time to get to know someone, get to know us, that's so meaningful.
Yeah. Well, yet again, we truly appreciate you, not only for, yet again, your husband, but for your support to him and us now supporting you. It's a full circle. I guess you can tell we're all family.
I love it.
Yet again, we've been speaking with Jessica Manfrey, a mom of 2 and military spouse, as we celebrate all things with regard to National Military Families Month. We truly appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You're welcome. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Thanks so much for sticking around with us. It is now 1:20, yes, 20 minutes past the top of the hour. By a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with Project Give Back Northern Virginia? Well, I should see more hands than that. In this case, they have provided Thanksgiving food boxes to families in need across Northern Virginia. Their mission? To give corporations, organizations, and individuals a way to give back to the communities where they live and work, especially supporting children and families facing hardship. Now they're getting set to do just that again. Joining us to tell us all about it is Mr. Charles Parker Jr. He is the director of the program, and Walter Smiley Jr. He is the operations chair, both of which are kind enough to join me right here on the Live Zone. Guys, it's good to see you finally on TV.
Thanks, Guy.
You bet.
Yeah, we're finally there.
Yeah, here in a major way. And what do I mean by that is that this is not your first go around. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the 15th anniversary celebration, if you will. So that means, well, you got to be doing something right, guys.
Yes, 15 years. We're happy to say we've been doing this for 15 years, and we've helped a lot of families in this last 15 years. So I think we definitely left an impression on a lot of Northern Virginia families.
Yeah. And so, Charles, I want you to expand on that. I mean, obviously, it started in 2010, serving more than 50 families, as you pointed out. Now served, what's this, some 6,500 families over the 15 years. How have you been able to grow this whole process?
Well, it's been with basically with a lot of communication and networking, Divine Line, church organizations, community organizations, collaboration of everybody. We get Fairfax County gets involved. We get counselors from schools involved. So it's just a big collaboration. And over the years, we just talked to a lot of folks, use them as resources. And what they really do is let us know what families need help. Like, these families need help this school, or this family needs help this school. And we try to reach out to different schools and try to make sure these families get meals, proper food for Thanksgiving. It'll be food that we give them in a box to help them to prepare Thanksgiving meals. So
yeah,
over the 15 years, it's just been a lot of resources, a lot of networking. So,
you know what, Walter, I want to pass the mic to you, if you will. And in this case, I want you to talk about all things surrounding the food and the supplies, because here's where it gets real. So many of us hear about this, we hear about these programs, and you don't take part in it. But when you do, you see firsthand how the food can literally save a life, how the supplies can literally make someone's life a bit easier.
You're absolutely right, guys. So one of the things, Project Give Back, we have volunteers that come out on the Saturday the 22nd. We probably have about 500 volunteers that's going to come out and help us pack boxes. It reminds me a couple of years ago when I was dejected because I thought we didn't have the impact that we needed. And one of the community volunteers put his hands on my shoulder and said, "You see the boxes that are going outside? The families that's going to receive that box have no idea all the hard work we put into it. But they're very appreciative when they open it up. And this is one of the best meals that they've had, for Thanksgiving. And as you see there, it is a hands-on operation on Saturday the 22nd. We call it Give Back Saturday.
Yeah, hands-on in a major way. Folks that want to show out and show up and really take part in this and lend a helping hand, how easy is it for one to do so?
It's very easy. They can go to our website, Nova, NOVA-PGB.org. You can click donate or volunteer. We always accept funds and we always accept volunteers. And so of the 600 families we're going to feed this year, every year it's kind of like we have a collection of money that comes in from our D&I and corporate sponsors, but then the majority of it will come from the volunteers, those that's donating this year, 15 or 15, our 15 year. Can you donate $15 or increments of 15 to help us feed the families?
Yeah, I should make mention that this is taking place at a very special place near and dear to my heart. Let's go ahead and bring up the flyer, Producer Joey. It happens to be taking place at Hayfield Secondary High School. I attended that high school. I know it well, and I'm so glad that you all selected them, or they selected you, in order for this to take place. Too. Oh, does she? Okay, great.
Yeah, she's a senior, so she'll be out there working with me.
As she should. You're doing a great job. One more time, folks that want to take part, the information, perhaps the telephone number and our website, one could log on to.
Yeah, the website definitely is NovaPGB.org. You contact us through that. It's the website. I'm always monitoring any communication. and all of our information is right there from the website.
Hey, I can tell you guys are up to date as well. You got the QR code right there as well. That's what you call being on top.
We try to make it easy.
We've been speaking with Charles Parker and Walter Smiley Jr., both of which kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone as you all give back in a major way. We appreciate you all doing just that. We'll take a quick break.
Thank you, Guy.
On the flip side of this break, Saida Abbas joins us with the latest surrounding all things on our website. We're talking about fox5dc.com. That and so much more coming up next, right here on the Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Saida Abbas joining us now with some of the stories that she has been following throughout the afternoon and some of the stories that really happens to be catching your attention at home. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Guy. Thanks for having me. We're turning now to a D.C. crime crackdown. We're talking about other bills now that the shutdown has winded down. We're talking about things that could impact the society, especially cashless bail. So Republicans in Congress are hoping to alter laws and how we handle that situation. It's sparking a heated debate. After more than 50 days out of session during the government shutdown, the House Oversight Committee renewed its focus on District of Columbia affairs despite violent crime currently down 28% on top of a 35% reduction last year. The first bill up for a vote today ends D.C.'s no cash bail, replacing it with cash only bail. Civil rights advocates say this disproportionately hurts poor people. The bill also requires pretrial detention for people charged with violent or dangerous crimes. The second rolls back local D.C. police reforms like limits on chokeholds, body cam rules, and accountability. Many were enacted after the Black Lives Matter protest movement. The D.C. Police Union has been working to get rid of those restrictions. House Republicans have blamed D.C.'s 2023 crime spike on the policing rules. Bills already passed in House lower age to be tried as an adult from 16 to 14, impose mandatory minimum sentences for certain youth offenders, and allow D.C. police to engage in vehicular pursuits, allow President Trump to directly nominate D.C. judges. D.C. Shadow Representative is among those speaking out against the actions of House Republicans. Remaining bills include replacing D.C.'s elected attorney general with a presidential appointee, impose mandatory minimum sentences for several violent crimes, and repealing D.C. criminal justice reforms and prohibit automated traffic enforcement and banning camping on public property in D.C. So District of Columbia leaders call the bills an unprecedented federal overreach and an affront to the principles of democracy. And so far, none of them have been taken up by the Senate.
Yeah, really interesting. We're going to dive into this a little bit more in about 10 minutes when we're joined by a D.C. official who yet again is crying foul. This has the attention of a lot of people, and it's something going to play out right before our very eyes. So we'll have to see what well, what ends up happening.
Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, as they should. Saida Abbas joining us with the latest right here on the Live Zone. By the way, I want to give you a chance to plug your show this upcoming weekend.
Absolutely. We have a lot to look forward to on Fox 5 Weekend Live. Make sure you stream us on Fox Local 12 to 6.
All right, good stuff. Stick around for this, because in this case, we're talking about Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince paid a visit to the White House yesterday for talks on AI, oil, security, commerce, and nuclear energy. It was the first visit by the Crown Prince to the U.S. since the 2018 killing of a Saudi journalist. The Crown Prince was asked about that incident by a reporter yesterday, which garnered this response from President Trump.
Mr. President, is it appropriate, Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president? Is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with a family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president.
Yet again, the president responding to the reporter's question, apparently not too happy with regard to what the reporter had to say, yet again asking him about the incident, which back in 2018, in which a Saudi journalist happened to be killed. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Jonathan Strum, former Georgetown professor of Israeli law and Middle East affairs, back here on the Live Zone. Mr. Strum, good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show. Mr. Strum, do we have you?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So I'm curious. Obviously, all eyes happen to be on Capitol Hill, on the White House, and, well, quite honestly, the nation's capital, as the president continues to, as some would say, wine and dine the Crown Prince. Your assessment thus far with regard to the relationship with the U.S. and to Saudi Arabia, and what you foresee happening sometime in the near future?
That's it. I think the Saudis got pretty much everything they wanted out of this trip. They're going to get the F-35s. We don't know what kind of configuration those will be in. It'll probably be up to Congress. They got declared to be a major non-NATO ally. They're going to get some form of defense pact. They're going to get AI chips. To help build their burgeoning AI sector, which is growing by leaps and bounds, at the same time they're saying that they're going to invest $1 trillion into the United States, which is obviously more than what they said a few months ago, which was $600 billion. So there's some glaring things that didn't come out of this, but from the Saudi perspective, they got pretty much everything that they wanted. And the things that they didn't have not really been discussed is whether or not they're going to participate in the Gaza reconstruction and the normalization with Israel, which, even though the president keeps talking about it, there's no way in the world that the Saudis are going to normalize relations with Israel as long as Prime Minister Netanyahu is still the prime minister. They're going, like Prime Minister Netanyahu waited for Trump to come into office. The Saudis are going to try to wait and see what happens in the next election in Israel coming up no later than October of next year.
Yeah, but wait, there's more, sir. As we know, the president just stating that perhaps the Crown Prince wants the U.S. to now intervene with regard to the war in Sudan. The president stating during a conference just minutes ago that he had no idea. It happened to be the point at which it is now, and that he plans to now get the U.S. involved. For those of us who are not familiar with the conflict that's taken place in Sudan and why the Saudi prince, Crown Prince that is, has an interest in it, I'm hoping you could expand on that.
Sure. Well, there's, it's interesting because of the amount of attention that Gaza takes, we've really paid very little attention to Sudan. And there's basically been two factions fighting. There's one backed pretty much by the Saudis, and there's the other side back pretty much by the United Arab Emirates. So they've been fighting, and that's actually a much worse humanitarian disaster than Gaza has been, and more people have been affected by it. So, they've pretty much fought to a standstill. A lot of the fighting is taking place in Darfur, or in the area of Darfur, where there was a famine and a genocide about a dozen years ago. And it's almost like trench warfare from World War I. They're fighting over minor territories. The RVS has just taken one of the cities in Darfur, but there's no aid going in there, and obviously there's no coverage. Certainly not comparable to what's going on in Gaza. So I think it would be anything that would cause that conflict to end would be a good thing. And I guess the Saudis and the UAE are now tired of supporting this.
Yet again, something we'll have to keep a close eye on. We'll end with this, and that is the president, got a lot of backlash, if you will, surrounding his relationship and or his family's business relationship with the Saudis. Is that something of concern to you?
Well, it is of concern to me only in the extent that you're not supposed to use the presidency as a means for doing business. And that really does seem to be what the president and the family are doing. And there comes a point where is the United States relationship, is the United States interest always exactly the same as the Trump family's relationship? And that should not be a question in a democracy. You shouldn't have to worry about whether the president's interest is the same as the country's interest.
Well said. Yet again, we have been speaking with Jonathan Strum, former Georgetown professor of Israeli law in Middle East affairs, joining us on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time, sir.
Great. Thank you.
All right, folks. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, all eyes are on Capitol Hill, where Congress today voting on two measures that would change the way D.C. handles crime. And although some say it addresses crime, others say it passes the line. This as one bill would end cashless bail in the district. Translation, it ties a person's release to their ability to pay. The second bill rolls back local D.C. police reforms like limits on chokeholds, body camera rules, and accountability, which came into law following the Black Lives Matter protest movement. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Clinique Chapman, Chief Executive Officer of the D.C. Justice Lab. Ms. Chapman, good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm curious. Let's start off with your stance on not one, but both bills. Is this something that should really move forward in your mind?
No, neither of these bills should move forward. This isn't oversight; it's federal overreach. And DC voters and leaders have chosen our current system. And these bills would override politics from people who don't live in DC and aren't rooted and invested in the residents here.
Yeah, Ms. Chapman, I'm hoping you could expand. For example, you heard me make mention of the first bill that would end cashless bail. It took a while for a number of folks, myself included, to really understand that. And you heard my translation earlier, meaning, well, it would really change the way someone could post bond. You would have to post the entire amount. Is that correct?
Yes, and DC system, our system already works, and this system that they would like to take us back to, freedom shouldn't depend on, your bank account, and that's what it would take us to. And it would, go back to a system prior to 1992 where people with money, they go home. People without the means to pay, they sit in a jail cell. That's a paywall, not a justice system, and that's exactly what it would do.
All right, let's move on to the second bill, in essence, all surrounding the DC police reforms, like the limit on chokeholds. Obviously, we saw that a big issue during the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes, we did. So these bills, specifically this one, would let abusive officers stay on the force, putting DC residents at greater risk. The Clean DC Act would dismantle a bill that protects both officers and the community. It's about everyone, right? The accountability, transparency, and safety. And currently, that is working. The system that we have in place, it improves police oversight, creates public misconduct database, and ensures, the use of force incidents like deaths and serious injuries are reduced. And so, the federal attacks on DC system right now are really repealing laws that make us safer. It only weakens the trust and undermines officer morale and really does restore harmful practices that are endangering lives. That's not safety. That is not safety. That's actually causing more harm on individuals in the community.
I guess the question that needs to be posed is, how do we find ourselves here? And I would assume it has all things to surround the lack of DC statehood.
You're spot on with that. We need statehood. DC needs its ability to self-govern. DC needs representation. Voting members of Congress would help. DC needs full autonomy in its local laws and budget. Our communities suffer. Schools suffer. Safety of individuals, the feelings of safety suffer. The community is compromised without statehood. It would make DC safer to be able to really enact laws and take care of itself. DC doesn't need a federal interference. DC needs self-autonomy and self-governance.
Yeah, you have been vocal along with Councilmember Robert White, along with Councilmember Pinto. I guess the question is, what happens now? Where do we go from here?
Now we wait and see, but there has been so much, advocacy happening on the Hill, behind the scenes, really trying to educate and advocate for, the voices of DC residents to be heard. DC residents voted for the current policies that are in place. That is what we need to follow. And so we really do hope that, those on the Hill would, err on the side of letting DC run and take care of itself. Our policymakers, our lawmakers are well equipped to do that, and have been doing that for so long now.
Ms. Chapman, it's no secret we have a number of folks watching, particularly from the city of the nation's capital, D.C. I'm making reference to. A message you'd like to say to them surrounding all of this?
I'd like to say that, DC doesn't need federal interference. DC needs investment in the things that we know work. DC needs to center, the voices of the residents. DC needs to center the residents and the people that matter most. We do need the Hill to focus on things that, are not DC related. DC has its own policymakers. We have our own mayor. And so, hands off DC, honestly.
Yet again, if the bill is approved, the bills will then go on to the Senate and then to the president's desks before coming law. We have been speaking with Clinique Chapman, Chief Executive Officer of the DC Justice Lab. We truly appreciate your time. Back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. You heard the saying, 'tis the season to give. Well, now you can give in a major way and help the community out while doing so. I'm making reference to the gift cards for guns. Yes, it's a gun turn-in program, and it's taking place this upcoming Saturday at First Baptist Church of Glenarden, Zion Church, in the Prince George's County Police Department. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Pastor Stefan Lindsay, the youth adult pastor of Zion Church. Pastor Lindsay, good to see you, my friend, and welcome to the show.
Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I am so glad that you were here. This is just the coolest thing to me. I had the opportunity to attend, I don't think it was last year, but perhaps the year before. There's nothing like standing around some amazing folks, you included, and all of a sudden you see someone walking up with a rifle of some sort, and they turn it in exchange, get a gift card. You're taking the guns off the streets, but at the same time, you're helping folks to, well, let's say, have a great holiday season. Oh, do tell.
Oh, absolutely. Well, again, giving honor to Pastor Jenkins for the First Baptist Church of Glenarden and my pastor, Pastor Keith Bowder, as well as the Prince George's County Police Department, who over a decade had this vision to keep our community safe in this way, but also, again, give back and provide resources to those who would make this sacrifice in doing so. And so I give them honor, and we found it a privilege to serve our community in this way.
Yeah. So walk me through this, Pastor, as to how this all takes place. Let's say I have a weapon at home that's either registered or not registered. What is it that I need to do in order to take part in this program?
Okay, well, here's the deal. Believe it or not, there are no questions asked. Okay, so with this particular event, you bring your gun, and if it's a shotgun, in return you get a $100 gift card. A handgun will allow you to get a $150 gift card, and an automatic or semi-automatic $200, no questions asked. Only thing we ask is that you unload it before you get there. We got to be mindful, but other than that, it's an even exchange in a sense.
Okay, so yet again, I got to make sure we're clear about this, because we all have a cousin named Pookie. And
yes,
perhaps
indeed.
Pookie has somewhat of a troubled past, and let's say he has that weapon, and we're not sure what that weapon has been used for. You're telling me that Pookie can take that weapon and bring it on down and get a gift card?
Well, here's the deal. This event is a non-judgmental, very confidential event and experience. Now, obviously, once everything is turned in, there are organizations in place and leaders in place that will make sure that we do right by every weapon that was turned in, right? But there's a process with that. But again, we want to stress to every individual that there's a high level of confidentiality and safety here with this process. So again, no judgment.
Yeah, and this has, by the way, been very successful over the past years, 10 years, I believe. Some 525 guns turned in, resulting in over $65,000 worth of gift cards given back to the community. That's a big deal, because you're changing so many lives. I'm thinking about the lives that you all are saving, and then helping out as well with money during the holiday season.
Yes, indeed. And again, it's a blessing. For us, we like to say it like this. We truly do love our communities, and we believe that love demands action. That's right. Love demands action. And so this is one of the many ways that we like to be proactive in our action plan. And so, again, we are grateful and looking forward to this amazing event.
All right. So, Pastor, I have to play devil's advocate here. For taking guns off the streets, how would one go about to protect themselves?
That's a great question. Here at this event, we have no intent on minimizing anybody's rights and privileges. Again, we don't want to minimize. In fact, we simply want to maximize the opportunity for us to come together and unify ourselves to make our streets safer. And we just believe every step towards peace is better than a step not taken.
Yeah, we're taking a look just a second ago. That picture we had up that producer Joey put up happened to be some of my colleagues over at, there we go, Todd B right there, and DJ Flex, WPGC, my radio station that I work for in the morning. They will be there as well. I actually plan to attend to take part in this. And yet again, it's really cool to see the folks show up in droves, and I will repeat, in droves, with weapons that, to your point, have been disarmed. But at the same time, they are then turning them in, No questions asked. You're given a gift card, and voila, easy as 1, 2, 3. I absolutely love it.
Yes, indeed. We love it as well, man. And we look forward to seeing you.
All right. Folks that want to find out more information yet again, the stage is yours, sir. How would one take part?
Once again, well, you can visit www.zionchurch.org, or if you are on Facebook, Instagram, if is your preference, Zion Church. Again, Zion Church. And I just want to encourage everybody out there. You know, this particular event is really dear to my heart because less than a year ago, I lost a very close friend of mine, childhood friend actually, to gun violence. And he actually was a well-known DMV activist and still has a community a nonprofit that's thriving today, helping a lot of young people. And so, again, several decisions will be made on Saturday. We don't judge and know why everybody's making the decisions they're making, but I believe just one decision has the opportunity to save one life. And one life saved is a win for all of our communities.
Yeah. Yet again, just as a quick side note, if you do plan to turn in a weapon, the best thing to do, to your point, is 1, make sure it is not loaded, and then 2, put it in the trunk of your car. Do not have it on your person, if you will, or in the car with you, but in the trunk of your car as you make your way to any of the locations that are taking part. And that happens to be First Baptist Church of Glen Zion Church in the Prince George's County Police Department. Pastor Stefan Lindsay, we truly appreciate you. I'm so excited about this. I'm really happy that we're all doing our part to make our streets a lot safer.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Guy.
Back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Hey, our guy is back, Vernon Miles. He's actually working on the upcoming DMV zone that airs at 3 o'clock right here on Fox 5. What you got, Vernon?
Hey, we got some great stories coming up, but the big one that I'm excited about is we're going to see some new faces in D.C. The Indiana National Guard is deploying 300 troops to D.C. They should be coming sometime next month. They say the deployment's going to last probably around 4 months is what we're
Really?
hearing.
And so I was under at least I got the impression that most troops would be leaving sometime in the beginning of the new year.
That's what we were hearing as well. I think this kind of extension means that sometime early next year they could be pulled out. They usually have a couple-month rotation. Like the guys they're replacing right now came in August. So that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at for the troops being deployed here.
All right, good stuff. You can find out more information yet again at 3 p.m. when the DMV zone with Marina Morocco kicks off right here on Fox 5. That guy, making it happen. He's our guy, Vernon Miles. We truly appreciate you. Hey, stick around for this one, Vernon. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to speak with an amazing woman by the name of Kaya Thompson. 2 of her children are in dire need of blood stem cell transplants. Okay, let me take that back. one has actually received one. The other one, still in need. Let's go ahead and take a look with regard to that interview.
And so, as you said, I'm here in the hospital right now with my son. He's days away from his transplant. And I'm so grateful to the selfless individual who has put their life on hold to save my son. But also, as you said, I'm here today because my daughter doesn't have a match. And as my husband and I have served the public our entire professional careers.
Yeah, yet again, Mom then went on to plead that folks sign up with the NMDP registry, to which we bring in producer Joey, because yesterday you said to me, you know what, Guy, I think I'm registered.
Yeah, here's the website for that. I found the name was familiar. Turns out last March, I was going to the University of Maryland at McKeldin Library. There was a tent out front. These people said, take this swab, this will take a couple minutes, and it really did. Swab my cheek, put it back in the envelope, got a text. I'm on this registry now. If I do get a text, I know it'll be for a good reason. So I'm glad to see now the actual effect of what can happen with this.
Yeah, this hit near and dear. We actually posted this to our social media and got a huge response. So yet again, I believe if you are of the age of 18 through 35, you can actually take part in this and perhaps save a life. On behalf of Joey, producer Joey, I'm Guy Lambert. We truly appreciate you watching. Yet again, we do this each and every Monday through Friday, 12 to 2. Tell a friend, bring a friend, and I guarantee you, we're going to do it again. You want to have some more fun? Well, you can. The Take coming up next right here on Fox 5.